Who actually died doing what they loved? My buddy's father. He died sitting in a lawn chair in the shade with a beer in his hand, while watching kids play sandlot baseball across the street. He just fell asleep and didn't wake up. Didn't even spill his beer. My dad. He dropped dead on the 7th green. It was a beautiful day, and he was doing what he loved, golfing with his brothers. My husband's grandfather was out to dinner with his close friends at a fancy restaurant, just to catch up after a long time. Had a lovely evening with them, polished off a big steak dinner and his favorite drink. Promptly keeled over from a heart attack and died. His family jokes he did it before the check came so that his last meal would be free. Steve Irwin. Colonel Bruce Hampton died on stage at a concert celebrating him. My father. Deet racing Formula 1 airplanes in Reno. Envit bites. He told me the week before his death if he died racing, he would die doing what he loved, and I shouldn't feel bad for him. Pete Maravich. He died in a pickup game of basketball. My dad. He loved road cycling in his Lycra. One day, in 2006, he just never came home after his Sunday morning ride. He had a massive heart attack and died still attached to his bike in his favorite place in the world, Malakuta. I miss him every day. Dale Earnhardt. She's unknown outside my family, but my great-grandmother. She was 82 when she died. She had been a widow for over 10 years by then, still living in her White House with its huge yard full of all the trees, shrubs, and flowers she tended so diligently. She dropped dead of a heart attack in her backyard one spring day, and it was the next-door neighbor who saw her there. Eta, this is, of course, my model for how to go out. I remember being 7 years old when someone said this about an old sailor we vaguely knew whose boat was found floating out at sea, abandoned. He was never seen again and was declared dead at sea. I got in big trouble for pointing out that while he certainly did love sailing, he probably didn't love drowning, which is presumably how he died, so he didn't really die doing what he loved. There was a long, awkward pause after that. I often wonder why my parents bothered bringing me anywhere, to be honest. Tiny Tim gained fame on Laugh In the 1960s, died on stage while performing. Mitsuharu Misawa, arguably the greatest professional wrestler in history, died in the ring after taking a suplex. Walter E. Williams. He used to say, "If I should ever die, I want to have taught that day." He had class until 10 p.m. One of, if not the last class of the semester. Died in his car later that night, getting ready to drive home. I had a friend in high school who died playing soccer, literally what he loved the most. He was playing goalie that day, took the ball to the chest, and from what I heard, he collapsed. They were unable to bring him back. We were all 17 years old. Dean Potter. Died Weinzuiting. David Carradine. Darrell Dimebag Abbott. He was killed while playing a concert with his band Damage Plan. Brett from ISIS. He died doing what he loved, getting shot. Nelson Rockefeller died of a heart attack at the age of 70 while allegedly doing his 25-year-old mistress. Deaths during sex sounds like the best way to go. Jesse Combs. My cousin Sean. He struggled to find his way and finally got it all together. He worked for the Park Service and was essentially a professional hiker-camper. He was engaged to a lovely and gorgeous woman, and he died on a solo hike on a well-known trail not far from civilization. Sudden, unexpected, and difficult. He was young, life was high, he had all the things he was looking for. And honestly, what better way to go? At the top of your game, absolutely happy with where you're at. Antoni Gaudí stepped back off the curb to marvel at the early stages of Sagrada Familia. He was loved, his design cherished, promised that it would be of the people, built by tithes rather than a wealthy patron. Perhaps it would take longer, but be sweeter for it. I feel bad for the streetcar driver. Amelia Earhart and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. My great-grandmother was an alcoholic and was banned from buying alcohol in the little village where she lived. The nearest town was across the other side of the main highway. One day she snuck across the lanes of traffic, went to the neighboring town, got herself 2 bottles of gin and made it back across. She sat down, drank one of them, passed out, and died in her sleep, still clutching onto the other one with a smile on her face. They buried her with it. Mr. Hans. Mitch Hedberg. Dude, just love drugs too much. A lot of serious big wave like epic surfers are eventually across time are going to die. They know that. They've had close calls and yet they do what they do. Tommy Cooper. Robert Landsberg, who photographed the eruption of St. Helens. James Horner, composer of the Titanic score, who died while flying his plane. An online friend of my wife's was an avid participant in an online world she and he both enjoyed. One night she logged in and found his vehicle crashed off to the side of the correct route. He'd had a heart attack at the computer and died playing. My wife called the rest of the usual team and they all logged in and sat vigil by his character until a relative of his could log him out for the last time. Ever since, the surviving group members hold a memorial session in his name every June. John Denver. Ayrton Senna. Go to Disney and watch the documentary called Fire of Love. Those two, Katia and Maurice Kraft, loved volcanoes. It's a very interesting film and bonus, the whole aesthetic is like a real-life Wes Anderson movie. Jason Mendoza. He died doing what he loved, a bunch of whippets. Amelia Earhart, so brave, and this was back in '39. Can you imagine being a pilot solo? Amazes me just how special she was. Roberto Clemente died on a plane with humanitarian aid. Nelson Rockefeller.